Excited to see another triple option in back-to-back weeks.
Well, it beats seeing it for the first time of the year. So we got some familiarity. I like the carryover. Last week's actually helping us in another game. I'm probably in most normal years it'd be an aberration. So that's who we're playing, and hopefully we'll carry over some things that we learned from last week.
How much similarity is there between the two systems, Georgia?
Obviously, there's option philosophy is the same. Probably the delivery at times is a little bit different. They're just a little more diverse in their presentation, but again, they still have a dive and a quarterback and a pitch, and so we'll still have to play the same disciplined, physical, technique-driven. Focus, that we did last week. Again, I said it 100 times, but if something breaks down in that process, they'll move the ball up and down the field on us. So we'll have to have again a great deal of urgency, and again the same type of toughness and the focus that we had a week ago.
Dabo mentioned in the press conference earlier about having to play two option games back to back, and having a plan in place where you guys kind of make sure when you go back to having to play a typical game that you're ready for it and you didn't lose the kind of things that you've learned the first 10 weeks of the season.
Well, that's not easy to manage, and I don't know whether or not we have the answers for that. We still do a decent amount of good on good, and I would be surprised if we, forgot everything that we've learned up to this point. Certainly not taking it for granted, but at the same time, if you asked, in a perfect world, what would you like? You'd like to be able to have some consistency week to week and opportunities to keep, fine-tuning and getting better. But it's what's on the schedule, so you deal with it.
There's more to defining defense than the final stats, but when you look at your conference body of work and just the improvement from last year to this year, is there a lot of pride in where this defense has come in 1 year?
Yeah, I think that, I think our guys, if the game's on the line, I think that we've shown the ability to, to get the stop, to make a play, and relatively play consistently. You're right, the stats aren't always indicative. We play a lot of possessions, on our side of the ball, and we play a lot of people. So, we've been fortunate to get up in some games and play a bunch of guys, and then we've played a pretty good schedule. So, but you feel week in and week out that outside of the Florida State game that we've played, relatively well and have made, moderate improvement from a year ago, and certainly are a lot more consistent and improved in some areas that were a weakness a year ago. So we're far from a polished product, and certainly aren't satisfied with where we're at, but pleased with the investment in the week-to-week preparation, and again, our, like you said, body of work. I think our guys have, in each and every one of our wins, they've really, we just haven't been outscoring people. I think that we've played, a big part as well, or an equal part, with our offense in finding a way to win our ball games.
After watching the film, is there anything that you could take away from it, positives
Oh.
that you didn't notice?
I like to look at the negatives, and that doesn't always come out the right way. Certainly, we've congratulated our players and are pleased with their effort, and pleased with their work, pleased with the leadership, pleased with the toughness. There's a lot to be pleased with, but that had an opportunity to be a real special performance, and it was a solid one. Don't get me wrong, but it had a chance to be a special performance with a couple of third down conversions, getting off the field when we had the opportunities, where I didn't feel like we were out executed as much as we just made some very fundamental mistakes. A couple of third downs that were drives, particularly in the second half, that led to touchdowns. On each and every one, that had 3 touchdown drives in the second half there in the the one on the 65-yarder. But anyway, the last drive they get 60 yards, and that one play they get 65 yards, and without, then you look at 120 plus yards the rest of the night. That's really pretty good. But those plays did happen, and so we've worked hard at trying to find why and make the improvement, and we want to be an elite defense and be a great defense. You can't have those breakdowns during the course of the game.
The biggest difference between this year and last year against Georgia Tech, overwhelming them up front a lot more.
I thought we played on the perimeter better. I thought first and foremost, because we didn't play bad last year inside. They weren't wearing us out inside last year. They wore us out because they continued to capture the edge. And so we got, and listen, those guys, a bunch of war daddies last Thursday night, don't get me wrong. They played outstanding. But our leveraging the football was much better outside of the biggest, glaring ones, the toss sweep that got out the gate. And it blocked it just right, and we had two guys in a gap, and the guy overruns it and it's out the gate. But that, to me, that if the difference was, if you looked at just physically, where were they getting us a year ago? It was outside, and we didn't allow that to happen. And so there's a lot of changing parts and why that it wasn't just one guy or one position. There was a bunch of collectively, and our DNs were part of that at times too. At times they were leveraging the football as well. So
That scheme you used, where did you get it from? And it's something that you pulled back from back in the days when you played at K-State?
Just a better executed scheme than it was a year ago. It's not a scheme as much as it's just fundamental football. Dive option. It's not like we're trying to trick anybody. Just think that we did a better job fundamentally. We did a better job discipline-wise. Again, in the run game for the most part. And again, we still. And then I think we physically played with great effort, and we tackled awfully well, and we played with great effort. So, I just think that we improved on all the basics and majored in the minors, if you will, during the course of that game.
Did you see the end of the Georgia-Auburn game?
Did.
What do you coach with last second or fourth and forever?
When the ball's in the air, man, just get it down. I mean, obviously it had a couple of young guys back there and trying to make a play, and I felt real bad for them. I've got friends on both staffs, but anyway, that's you got to knock the ball down there. So.
Is it tough for a young guy to not? They want to be the.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, probably not just young guys. It takes that heady seasoned veteran, or maybe again what you say on that in that timeout coming out, and even then, hopefully we'll all use that at some point in time. Our probably to a man, every one of our players on defense, all that, and. It's funny, they come in, we should knock it down. I'm like, yeah, that happened right before NC State at half, and you guys are here trying to catch the ball. Like there's nobody else. Yeah, I remember every one of you guys. So, but that's what can happen, and you lose games that way. I don't even remember the score of the NC State. Was it a one-score game? Did we win, or we pull away? Two scores. But there you go. And they have a chance there before half there. So those are, fundamental critical mistakes that win and lose games, and that's a perfect example, one at the end. So
is Vic Beasley a guy that certainly has been discussed as someone who could test the waters next year? I mean, the way he's developed as an overall player, is he someone that could be not around next year? Is he testing?
Hey, I mean, anything can happen. Everybody's got to weigh it themselves. Is he a first-round guy? I don't know, and again, if you look at your small window of opportunity, and it's a very small percentage-wise with the opportunity, and it's a small window if, in fact, you're fortunate enough to get the opportunity to be in the NFL. And so what you want to do is you want to maximize your small window. and you maximize it only on the front end, because that's the only opportunity you can control. And whether it's injury or bad luck, once you're in the door, you may not last very long for a variety of reasons, but you have one opportunity to go in the front door, so you want to maximize it, because you're not ever able to capture what you might lose if you go in at a discount. So anything can happen. I've not talked to him. And
He has 2 sacks in the last 5 games. Has he evolved as an overall player? Have you seen him improve in the run game and other things?
yeah, you mean from a year ago?
Well,
Or
even from early in the year when
he played good. I mean, I've really felt he's played well all year. There's one game we didn't play well, but we didn't play very well as a team. So, he's in a long line of guys. But I thought Vic has played well all year.
Are you kind of the mind that if you're a 90% first rounder, probably should go and, like you said, maximize it, and if not, come back, or kind of what are your?
You're a slam dunk first round. Everybody, but you see all these meatheads on TV talking about they know who all the first round guys are. Yeah, they got all their mock. And then I've had the guys that think that they're all being. I know exactly what they're being told, and I'm like, you're not really there. And they're like, yeah, well, everybody's talked to these guys, and my agents talked to these people, and I'm a first or second round at worst. And next thing you know, they don't get drafted. I've had the All-American not get drafted, and they're like, what do I do? And I'm still answering calls from a year ago with guys that gave up something that is so pure and innocent, and you don't ever be able to get that back. So you better be sure, you better be sure, you better be sure. And the tape, hopefully they trust people that have a, as coaches, people think that we're not neutral, and in reality, all we want is what's best for these kids, because we have the lifelong relationships with them. And if a guy, to me, again, that's just my opinion, if he's for sure, a slam dunk freak. And listen, you better be a freak. Freak's Adrian Peterson. Freak's probably a guy over here. Freak's over at South Carolina. Those guys are freaks. If you're not the freak, then it's a no-brainer. To me, that's me. Everybody's, but to each his own. So I really, believe it or not, I don't spend any real time. I've had multiple guys that have, through the years, that have filled out the paperwork and made this big announcement like, I'm coming back. I'm like, where'd you go? You didn't. Are you kidding me? And then I've had one guy surprise me that probably where he went, but most everybody kind of falls right where you thought they would. But I've had a lot of guys that were, I had one dad called me and said, what do you think, Coach? And I'm like, do you want to know, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? And so I give my opinion, and it's like, I'm the guy, I'm the bad guy now. And then the guy doesn't get drafted. And then, of course, then the agents, all the guys have been pumped in, they blame the coaches. The coaches must have done something to, not get you drafted. It's whatever. So
Is a guy like Vic kind of a different case in that he didn't just come in and was a 3-year starter and his talent's been there all along? Here's a guy that's improved huge leaps and bounds from last year to this year, and you almost figure like, hey, maybe you're a fringe first rounder, second rounder, but if you could improve with those leaps and bounds again, you could be a top 15 kind of guy.
I'm gonna give my opinion on what I think. Other we're individuals and all that, but Vic has improved through work, through opportunity, through a decision on his own to make more of a commitment and be a more consistent player. And so he's played well for us.
Is Bashad's improvement from